Signed statements are one of the most important forms of documentation in a workplace investigation. A signed statement is a written record of information provided by an interviewee, whether that person is a complainant, respondent, or witness, that is reviewed and formally confirmed by their signature. The purpose of obtaining a signature is not simply administrative. It serves to confirm that, at the time of the interview, the individual agreed that the written record accurately reflected their account. In other words, it creates a reliable snapshot of what the person said at that specific point in time. From an evidentiary perspective, a properly obtained signed statement can carry significant weight, particularly when it contains a clear admission or important factual information. It can strengthen the investigator's findings, demonstrate that the investigation was conducted fairly, and provide a defensible record if the investigation is later challenged through arbitration, litigation, or regulatory review. One of the key purposes of a signed statement is to reduce uncertainty. For example, if a witness later changes their account or attempts to withdraw a statement, the signed document provides an important reference point. The individual may still explain why their recollection changed, but they must also address why they previously confirmed a different version of events. There are several ways investigators can create signed statements. One common method is to use the investigator's interview notes. At the end of the interview, the investigator reviews the notes with the participant, confirms that the information is accurate, and obtains the person's signature. Another approach is for the investigator to prepare a formal written summary based on the interview. This allows the investigator to ensure that important facts, timelines, and evidence references are clearly captured. The draft is then provided to the interviewee for review, correction, and signature. In some situations, a witness may prepare their own written statement. While this approach may be appropriate in certain circumstances, an investigator-led interview is often preferred because it allows the investigator to clarify details, explore inconsistencies, and ensure that important information is not overlooked. Regardless of the format used, a legally defensible signed statement should contain several essential elements. It should clearly identify the person providing the statement, including their name and relevant employment information. It should include administrative details such as the date, time, and location of the interview. It should also contain a statement confirming that the information was provided voluntarily and without threats, pressure, or improper promises. At the end of the document, there should be a clear attestation confirming that the person has reviewed the statement and believes it to be a true and accurate account of their information. The statement should then be signed and dated by the interviewee and typically witnessed by the investigator. However, obtaining a signature does not mean forcing agreement. A fundamental principle of a fair investigation is that an individual should never be pressured to sign a document they believe is inaccurate. Before signing, the interviewee must have an opportunity to carefully review the statement. They should be able to identify errors, clarify wording, or request corrections. Any changes must be handled transparently. Investigators should never erase, delete, or remove original information. Corrections should be made using a clear process, such as a single strike-through that leaves the original wording visible. The correction should then be identified and initialed according to the investigation procedure. Investigators should also be prepared for situations where a person changes their mind during the review process. For example, a witness may say, "I do not think that wording accurately reflects what I meant," or may want to modify an earlier statement. In these situations, the investigator should document the change rather than simply replacing the original information. Preserving both the original statement and the correction maintains the integrity of the record. Another important situation occurs when an individual agrees that the statement is accurate but refuses to sign it. This can happen because of fear of workplace consequences, concern about relationships with colleagues, or personal reasons. In such cases, the investigator should not force a signature. Instead, the investigator should document the refusal clearly, including the fact that the person reviewed the statement, whether they agreed with its accuracy, and that they declined to sign. The final investigation report should identify that the statement was reviewed but remained unsigned, as this may affect the weight given to the evidence. In certain circumstances, more formal types of statements may be used. For example, Affidavits, or sworn statements, involve a person making a declaration under oath before an authorized official. In rare situations where there is a significant concern that a witness may later withdraw their account, a more formal recorded statement process may be considered. In unionized environments, the review and signing process may also involve a union representative to ensure compliance with collective agreement requirements and procedural fairness. It is also important to recognize that not every investigation requires signed statements. Some regulatory bodies or investigation models may intentionally avoid formal signed statements during early fact-finding because they can make participants feel as though they are involved in a courtroom process rather than a workplace inquiry. Finally, investigators must carefully manage copies of signed statements. During the active investigation phase, unrestricted distribution can create confidentiality risks, influence other witnesses, or contribute to workplace discussions about the investigation. Access should generally be controlled and provided only on a need-to-know basis, with broader disclosure handled according to legal requirements. Ultimately, a signed statement is not valuable simply because it has a signature. Its value comes from the process behind it. A voluntary account, accurately recorded, carefully reviewed, transparently corrected, and properly preserved. When handled correctly, signed statements become a powerful tool for supporting fair, reliable, and defensible investigation outcomes.